What's up, current and future disc golf addicts? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be taking you along on a round at NSRA disc golf course in Sedro-Wolley, Washington, and the NSRA being short for Northern State Recreation Area. This is the site of the Falling Barn Open tournament, which happens on a yearly basis and sees a lot of local pros gather around for a tournament here at this course. As you would have seen from hole 1's tee pad, there is a ton of OB to find, and that is the theme across the entire course. If you'll pay close attention to those tee signs, as a preview for every hole, you'll see the OBs. There's more than I'd have enough time to break down, but the fun challenge at Sedro that always keeps me bringing back is that if you look at the hole lengths, the course isn't as hard as you would think. It's really the OB that plays a role into the shots, where it's a lot more how much can you manage this OB, but then also how much can you control your shots. There are always a couple holes that will get you more often than not, but other than that, it's really playing patient and trying to get your birdie looks. Hole 2 being an example of this, to where you really want to get on the putting green and try to give yourself a putt. It's not a fully enclosed island hole, but once you cross that road, it does resemble an island hole. Hole 3 also, with all that OB off the right, traditionally being in the tall grass, but then we're not seeing that on the left because they have thrown in a mando to protect some of the ruins off to the left. And so there's this one big tree here that you'll be seeing on your screen that you do have to navigate around the right of. With this run up, there is this ever slight uphill to where if you land your shot a little bit shorter, you'd have flat footing but a longer shot in. But on the tee shots, I'm really trying to push up as far up that hill as I can, preferably with a distance driver that isn't gonna ever drift right on me. So that's always been my preferred play. Unfortunately here though, I do mess up that approach, which means I'll be taking my bogey there. Hole 4, again, tight OB left and right, but this one is easy to push past the OB if you're throwing more than 270-ish feet. So for me, that shot's typically a Thunderbird hyzer, but I'm just not connecting properly on my drives. Worth noting here that one of the things about Sedro is that it is a little bit out from Seattle, meaning that traditionally when you're seeing people drive up, especially in my case, if you're looking at, it's about a little under an hour and a half drive. And so you're getting out of the car, you're still having to throw big shots and trying to control them. And even though that shouldn't be a factor, in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, oh, if it were closer, or if I could play it more often, I'd probably be scoring better. But that's always something that is unfortunately in the back of my mind, even though I'd like to try look past that factor. Hole 6 is really the hole that's most likely to get anybody, whether that be pro or am. Tee pad is elevated up above the entire fairway of Christmas trees, and you're really trying to throw a big, relatively straight shot that pushes for almost 400 feet and then just fades out or almost stalls out. And right now we're getting a look at what the fairway actually is down low. Hole 6, unless you have that power to get all the way to the basket, there isn't much of a landing zone. And so it really is, you throw your shot out and you try manage with what you have left there. Hole 7 doesn't look like much off the tee, but once you push past this initial line of a row of trees and the bushes early, this green does open out to be really beautiful, especially this slight slope that you're normally left putting up at, and actually does prove to be a lot trickier of a hole than you would think at the distance that it is. The OB doesn't come as much into play if you have that forehand that you're comfortable with. But moving on to the next hole, I believe this was hole 8. Hole 8, and then there's another hole that are very similar. And both of these are, in my opinion, baiting you to throw that big backhand turnover to try really push towards the basket. And then you might even fade out a little bit, but that fade at the end is just a cherry on top. It's not something that you need. And again, wanting to push myself and try improve my technical backhand, I was trying to throw this, failed pretty bad there, and end up taking a double bogey. Following hole 8, we have hole 9, a short island hole. Although the distance is short, the tricky part about hole 9 is that across the center of the island you have these row of trees, to where if I were 3 feet to the right I would have a clean putt, but I'm just left trying to pitch in a sidearm and actually throw in my berg for that birdie. And so considering myself lucky there to get that despite not having the best putting lie. Hole 11 being the second hole I was referring to, another one where initially off the tee, if you're wanting to park the basket, you would be throwing this turning over backhand that would fade out for a righty. But if you're really trying to manage your score out here, this is one that you want to just get your par. You might even chip a sidearm out through the gap, cut the hole in half, and not risk any bigger scores. Especially when you go long and left, there is the potential of losing a disc too, so that's always something to worry about here with these really thick bramble bushes out at Sedro. And having to get a little bit creative here on the approach on hole 11, having to throw this high turning shot and then just a poor low putt there. Hole 12 coming in at just under 350 feet. This is a hole that is really memorable for myself. We also have the art basket that is next to the pin, but that's not the reason why. This one, for some reason, every time we come out here with our group, somebody's always losing a disc out into this high grass. And this time around, I did actually end up losing my Wraith there, despite having 8 people. We split up into 2 cards, both of us looking for a good 5-10 minutes. No sign of it whatsoever, just disappeared. So that's unfortunate this time. Moving on to hole 13, if I'm not mistaken. Hole 13, again, doesn't look like much off the tee, but once you start getting towards the basket, you start seeing that real danger where this hole could get you, especially with that OB road. Now at this point, being a little bit disappointed with where I am, I tried running the putt, but the putt just hasn't been on as far as the outside circle 1 looks. And so at this point, I'm really happy I just got my par there, concerning that I did run it and fortunately didn't go OB. Bringing us to debatably a signature hole at Sedro. Most famously, this is one that our local pro, Nick Schuler, chained out for an ace on, which is insane, thinking that the hole is coming in at 466 feet. And so this is one for your amateurs that really does feel like a par 4, especially when you're not getting out of the gap on your first tee shot like I was there, leaving me just struggling, trying to work my way up to the green. Hole 15, you have a line of bushes in the middle, but you have 2 options. You're either throwing a forehand or backhand, spike hyzer, whatever you want. At this point, I've not been feeling my backhand, so I was trying to push for that sidearm hyzer, but seeing as though I had just lost my glidey overstable Wraith, I didn't have much of an option except to disc up, especially because there was a little bit of wind on this hole that I remember. Gave myself a long look at it, but no real chance to try get that birdie there. Hole 16 is actually one of my favorite holes at Sedro, to where you have a lot more space than the T sign would initially let you think, with that OB left and right, to where across the fairway you might be looking at over 100 feet of space to land. So you're just trying to air out everything you have in this big anhyzer. And with the distance that I have, I'm not too concerned about it. Unfortunately, I did end up hitting one of the early branches, leaving me scrambling, almost going OB on the second shot, staying in. But with no OB past the basket, I actually have this long par save here, which was really clutch. Hole 17 might be one of the most treacherous holes, and easily is the hole where most discs are lost at Sedro. On the tee sign, you would have seen that OB off to the left. It's actually a ravine that drops down, that is thick of spiky bushes and everything nasty that you can imagine. It turns into a swamp in the winter with how much rain there is. And I've seen so many countless discs lost down there. And so in that sense, the backhand play is really risky. And especially if you do want to try attack the pin, it does almost force that backhand big turnover line. Hole 18, unfortunately, is a little bit of a blind shot off the tee. This is one where preferably you would have some sort of spotters down there, because it's really hard to get a sense of where the basket is from the tee. So you're just chucking at, again, for an amateur, pretty much as hard as you can. As long as you're not turning anything over to the right, then you should be fine. You have a really wide fairway, and I think the only OB was the parking lot. But that brings us to the end of the round, where I shot a plus 562 at Sedro. Not my best, but also had some good putts, saving my pars where I could. If you enjoyed what you saw, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.